Getting ready to kick off another great show here. You're listening to DND Dynamite 80s as DC has proclaimed the best 80s podcast
The
in Nashville.
best 80s podcast in
Yes.
Nashville, Tennessee. Absolutely.
This also marks the first time that I have ever been on TikTok in any way.
Oh, awesome.
I don't-
Debut.
Yeah.
Debut.
I was hoping Friendster was going to make a comeback, so I was holding off.
There you go. There you go. All right.
All right,
DH,
DC,
you ready, brother?
we are live on YouTube and TikTok now. I've got the chat up. So whenever you're ready, we'll get
All
this
right,
one
let's
started.
do it.
Hello world, this is Kevin from Fiction Factory, and you're listening to DC and DH on the DND Dynamite 80s podcast.
They have been best friends since childhood. They played the same sports, attended the same schools, and now they even teach together. You're listening live from Nashville, Tennessee to DC and DH on the D&D Dynamite 80s podcast. So guys, take it away.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into another fun-filled episode of D&D Dynamite 80s. I'm DH.
I am DC.
And we're here. We're going to take another fantastic look back at the 80s, back in our regular time slot this week. For everybody that was able to enjoy Thanksgiving because we weren't on Wednesday night, you're welcome. So we didn't upset your dinner.
We didn't want to bug you.
Right. DC, how's your week been, brother?
Hey, pretty smooth, man. How about yourself?
Oh, man, I actually saw you once this week. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, I've seen you a couple times in the hallway. We never
just kind of moving.
We teach in the same school building and never see each other. Imagine that.
I know it kind of works out that way, right?
Yeah, that works out nice.
I tell you what, this is going to be a great show. This is kind of, the last couple of shows we've kind of done some things a little different from the 80s, but now we're flipping back.
We're back in our
yes,
in our
and
zone.
I'm excited to get this one rolling.
Yeah.
So DC, I'm gonna throw it over to you, and let's go ahead and get our introductions going.
Hey, we're honored to have Stephen Pitalo with us tonight, and Stephen has got the Music Video Time Machine magazine, and he just an interesting background. Read some bio stuff, getting kind of prepped for the show and all that, and we're going to talk about that. He's a lot smarter than us, DH. He got like an academic scholarship, so there you go, in journalism and all that great stuff. So we'll talk about that. But he's the guy that knows all the ins and outs of video, the music video world. And I actually seen an interview that he did, and we're going to talk about that particular video a little bit because it made my list. I'll talk about the list stuff here in a little bit. But anyway, he talked about that and gave some neat information that people may not know that took place in that video. So that'll make all sense to him when we get to that point. So, Stephen, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm all fired up and ready to talk to you guys. I heard a little bit about what you're all about and what you've been doing, and so it sounds like we grew up in possibly the same era.
Right.
My own personal journey was that my junior high school, and college was 80 to 90 exactly. So that worked out well for me.
That's about right.
Yep,
That's about right for us.
We're both class of 86.
86.
There you go. Me too.
Yeah.
I think
so. We're right there.
I think we had three. DC, I think we had like 375 students, and you were number 376, and I was 379.
Probably. So. Yeah, they let me just take a chair on the day of graduation.
Right.
It's funny you should say that, because I was just saying the other day that I think I graduated with 383 people, and I think I was 38th or 39th. I think it was 39th because I just missed the top 10%.
Wow.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. That's the way it goes.
Yeah.
You can't be good at everything.
Now,
hey.
Yeah. And I think I read this correctly. Biloxi, Mississippi. So
that
did
is
you grow
absolutely
up most of the time in Mississippi?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
That's where I grew up. My parents are from there. And graduated from Biloxi High School, 1986. Watched a whole lot of TV.
Yeah.
MTV.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think we actually got it until maybe 83 or 84. One of the interesting things about MTV is that people talk about it launching August 1st, 1981, but that was in smaller markets.
Okay.
Los Angeles and New York didn't actually get MTV until like a few years later. So when it launched, the studio was in New York, but they had to go to New Jersey to watch it debut.
Wow. Okay. Well, there you go.
Pretty funny.
I know,
Yeah.
It was about that same time frame, DC, when we actually kind of picked it up, because I know that's about when, because we thought we were big time. We had like 3 stations, and then we picked up like 17 and one other channel.
Yeah, you were the man.
Yeah, and then we finally got the kid.
Yeah, my parents still have just the 3, basically with snow on their TV. They still have like 3 channels. My dad refuses to pay for TV. He's not going to do it. That's just the farmer in him. You know what I mean? So,
well, I remember the first.
You were like the man.
Nights.
You had the cable, so it was like, hey, I can't wait. Can I spend the night? Can I spend the night?
Yeah,
because that was big stuff. Was MTV
and here's the thing, Stephen, and I know you'll remember this. Used to at like 11 o'clock to midnight on the weekends, all TV would go off.
Yeah.
So that first weekend we had cable, man. We were like, we're up 24 hours watching
24/7.
Didn't matter if it was
absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't mean to take a left turn here, but I see some 38 special in the back.
Yes.
I am a massive 38 special fan.
Yes.
I always enjoyed them a little bit more than their brother over in Skinnerd. But I mean, and what's funny is that they are one of the bands that people forget had music videos going in the 1980s. Now, the early ones like Hold On Loosely and Caught Up in You were kind of done on the cheap, and they were actually shot on videotape, as I recall.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But they did actually start to develop a style, and they had a few in a row that were the recurring characters. They had a couple of them, if you'll recall, it was supposed to be like Hill Street Blues, where they were cops, they were chasing this girl and stuff like that. And the other one that's important to know is If I'd Have Been the One, because it has Bruce Springsteen's ex-wife Julianne Phillips in it.
Correct. Yes, and I've actually emailed back and forth to her, and unfortunately, she's not at the point where she wants to do these kind of shows. But I'm gonna keep pressing her, because she said, "Don't give up on me," because I may decide to do it at some point.
Oh,
so I've actually, I sent her a picture. I sent a picture of her like in the convertible.
Oh yeah,
and I said, does this bring back me? She goes, oh yeah, that's definitely me.
Well, it's funny. I actually talked to Donnie Van Zant very briefly about the If I'd Have Been the One music video, and I said, well, that's a pretty epic looking clip, because you got all the horses and all, and that was the Tour de Force album. Right?
Yes.
Yep.
And I said, so where'd you do that? He goes, it's hard to believe, but we seem like a very, hometown, homegrown band. We shot that in Canada.
That's wild.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. That's a little,
that is crazy. Odd. Yeah. But, because I figured it was like down south. They're they're a Florida band, Jacksonville area. I'm thinking, oh, okay, maybe south, but then you see like the open area. So I said, oh, okay, definitely Midwest.
Yeah, I always thought that their melodies and their songs, they were great, and
they're fantastic.
I saw them.
Yeah,
I don't know how long ago it was. Up here, I'm in Brooklyn, New York now. So I saw them play at BB King's. It must have been more than a decade ago.
Okay.
And they're still bringing it. Don Barnes has still got a voice, man.
Yeah. The picture of Don Barnes that's on my desk, I actually took it.
Oh.
I was on the front row, never been on the front row of any concert. Happened to be on the front row in 2016 when they played Knoxville, Tennessee. I lived in Knoxville at the time.
Oh, okay.
And anyway, I took that picture, held on to it, and I've got one of the original, you can't see it.
Teachers.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know the film well. Nick knows
Okay.
me,
So
Ralph Macchio, Crispin Glover.
Over the years, I got to know a songwriter here or there, and I said, hey, by the way, do you know anybody that might know somebody for 38 Special? I've got a couple of items I'd love to get signed. He said, no problem.
Oh man!
So he got me in touch with one person, then another person, then another person. Hey, just send all that stuff with with an self-addressed stamped envelope or package with it.
Yeah.
And we'll get it to you. And sure enough, it all came back, and
that's great. That's great. And to bring it back to music video, as we all recall, there was a certain period of time where if you had a movie and you had a good song, you could have a movie crossover video.
Yep.
So we had two of those from 38 Special. We had Teacher,
yes,
Teachers, and we had Back to Paradise.
Yes.
From I believe
Revenge of the Nerds
2, Back to Paradise.
Yes.
Right. Where they went to Fort Lauderdale or wherever they were.
Yeah.
Yep.
I can hear the women leaving the room.
Yes.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
But, but those are movies. I mean, but just to be honest, those are movies when if you find them on now, you're going to stop and watch them.
Oh, absolutely.
And I know I do. Yeah. My wife's like, I'm going shopping or something. I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch this.
Yeah. Well, Stephen, let me ask this.
Sure.
Is it true that video killed the radio star? Was that the very first one?
Oh yeah. That was the very first music video that they aired. It was directed by Russell Mulcahy. He is for a band called the Buggles. Two members of the Buggles you probably would recognize: Jeff Downs, who went on to be in Asia.
Yes.
And Trevor Horn, who turned out to be a major music producer.
Okay.
He produced just everybody. Frankie Goes to Hollywood was one of his big ones.
Okay.
He produced the album for Yes, where Owner of a Lonely Heart.
Wow. Yeah.
But I mean, he's really done a lot over the course of time. But that director, Russell Mulcahy, ended up being a huge director during that time. One of the top directors, because he did all of the most popular videos for Duran Duran.
Wow.
He actually told me a story about shooting a video for Ultravox where they had these two actors. It was done outside and it was supposed to be sort of an apocalyptic type thing. So they had this tree that was supposed to sort of have an explosion behind it. And so they shot it once and the explosion happened. It was really kind of poof. It didn't go so well. And so Russell said, can somebody, jack this up a little bit? And this guy said, well, but I have a can of kerosene I can pour all over it if you want. Okay. Because I mean, back then we're talking about, this was probably made in like 1980, maybe even 79.
Yeah.
And so there's no safety regulations. There's no paramedics on. So they poured it on there.
Yeah.
They set it on fire. I mean, like a balloon of flame comes out, and the two actors who are in front are supposed to be running away from it. And so they run away and they jump, and one of the actors' hair actually caught on fire when they were shooting it. And they put it out real quick, but Russell kept the shot in the video. So if you look really closely at a video called Passing Strangers by Ultravox, and you go frame by frame, you can see the guy's hair on fire.
Okay.
Which is, it's a common thing back then for there to be the type of things you could never shoot today. One of the directors, David Mallet, told me when they were shooting White Wedding for Billy Idol, there's that scene where a motorcycle comes down a flight of stairs, and David said, oh, if he'd have gone too far to the left or too far to the right, he probably would have been killed. But nobody was really talking about safety back then. So it was no big deal.
Right. Different time period.
The hair being on fire, that kind of brings up, I guess that was an 80s thing. Michael Jackson with the Pepsi commercial and all.
Yeah, that was an unfortunate accident. But among those directors, Bob Giraldi, who directed that, he was the one who also did Beat It, for Michael, and he also did Loves the Battlefield for Pat Benatar.
Yeah.
And actually, he's interviewed in Music Video Time Machine magazine.
There it is.
You can take a look at online.
There it is. Yeah.
If you want to check it out, it's at musicvideotimemachine.com, and there's a magazine section if you want to take a look at that.
Yeah.
He was one of the big American directors at the time. He also did famously Lionel Richie's Hello, which is
oh wow.
We've
stood
talked
the
about
test
that
of
one on
time.
our show.
That one keeps coming up over and over again.
Yeah.
And if you'll remember the statue of Lionel, it doesn't look that much like him. It's
Right.
really funny. And when Lionel said to Bob, when the statue shows up, the bust,
Right.
he goes, "It doesn't look like me." And he goes, "The girl is blind in the video. Remember, she's blind, so she doesn't know what you look like." It all makes sense now.
Got to keep the storyline. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You got to keep it alive.
Exactly. And Bob Giraldi was one of the only people who could get away with little sections of speaking parts, like before the song or after it or something, because he was really trying to push the boundary on that. Like Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney, Say has a whole storyline about them being hucksters and their
hustlers, right,
Wonder Potion, that whole thing.
Yeah.
So he was one of the guys that it was really a pleasure to talk to him. He and whenever we start talking about these things, I always think it's interesting to notice that during that really early period of 81 to maybe 84, there was no telling who was going to get a hit and who was not going to get a hit on MTV, because it was such a roll of the dice of what was going on then. I mean, who could predict that, say, Tom Petty was going to be a huge music video star, but Diana Ross, it didn't happen for her, which seems odd. That seems strange. I mean, Billy Idol. Billy Idol's a great example of somebody who really knew what he was about and how he was going to look. Madonna, the same sort of thing.
Sure.
But then you had guys who it just didn't work for them, like Christopher Cross and James Taylor. These guys are very talented, but it just wasn't going to work in the MTV era. The very first day that MTV is on the air, Rod Stewart had 11 videos in rotation.
Wow.
Rod Stewart's always ahead of everybody when it comes to anything at all.
Yeah.
The cool thing about videos back in the 80s was that I guess the flair, the 80s flair, because the videos were just, and even when you watch them now, it's like, that is the flair that you're looking for,
Right.
Everybody is just, but it's like you said, it was amazing because you would have these major stars who you'd watch their video and you go, not really that impressed. And then all at once you have men without hats doing safety dance and you're going, hey, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. The storylines or something that was that weird, stuck out to you or whatever.
Right.
It was something so unique.
Like
well, I was going to say that the performance videos, basically in the 60s and the 70s, that's kind of all you got for a while. And then things started to develop more with Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen, which was directed by the late Bruce Gowers. And when I spoke to him, he had great things to say about the whole experience. That video took a half a day to shoot. He said that they shot all of it in the morning, and by 1 or 2 o'clock they were in the pub. So that it was that fast.
Wow.
And that whole video, even though it looks like it has some effects in it, all those effects happened in the camera. So there was really almost nothing to edit together. It was almost exactly the way you saw it. The way that they accomplished that is to just take the camera and point it at the monitor, and so it would have this streaming effect that they just used. So that was one of the big jumping off points for music video. There are a lot of directors that I spoke to who all said that when they saw Bohemian Rhapsody on Top of the Pops in the UK, that a light bulb went off in their heads. Oh, wait, this looks like something we could really, really do. And then just a few years later, you can see on the Billboard pop charts, it's just crazy. All the different genres that are all on there. And it's all because of MTV, that you've got, Michael Jackson, but you've also got Quiet Riot,
Right.
It's just
a wide range.
Well,
absolutely. You've got Eurythmics,
Yeah.
on one side. And then you got George Thorogood,
For the
Right.
next one.
It was
And then
wild.
and
Yeah.
the cool thing was you go from
Yeah.
these like elaborate sets to something like Chevy Chase and wow, I just totally went blank. You can
Paul
call me
Simon.
Betty.
Yeah, Paul Simon.
You
Yeah.
go to that
Yeah.
simple video, and I still love watching that video to this
Yeah.
day. I mean, when Chevy Chase turns with the horn and Paul Simon's face is right there, it
Right.
just cracks me
The
up.
little bitty things.
Yeah.
Right. The little things.
And
That's
it
funny.
was just such
Sure.
a variety.
That's right.
I mean,
I think the directors they created these works, and you could do just about every type of filmmaking you can think of. It could be
Mhm.
drama or comedy or just a performance video, or it could be some sort of abstract filmmaking or something like that. If you watch a video by like The Fix for like Saved by Zero, it's
Yes.
strange things going on.
Yeah.
Something as simple as I wouldn't even say simple, but something like Sledgehammer. Who had seen anything like that before then? And Peter Gabriel, is an amazing artist. And strangely enough, that same year was when his old band Genesis was making a big splash
Yeah.
with their video for Land of Confusion,
Yep.
which was all
Yep.
those weird puppets and stuff like
Right.
that.
Right.
Another example, you just never knew who was going to kind of
Yeah.
drop in, and it would be an enormous, explosion. Who'd have thought Yes was going to be huge in the 80s,
Yeah.
because you could have predicted for somebody like Duran Duran,
Right.
or even for somebody like Elton John, these
Sure.
people who had these crazy personas and looked really good on camera. One of the directors that I talked to was a guy named Peter Kagan, who started out shooting sort of home movies when he was working for Richard Avedon. And so he would shoot these kind of behind the scenes things in different mediums, like in Super 8 and 16, and he would put them together. It would just be kind of a souvenir. Well, one time they had a model shoot, and it got rained out, and so they're all sitting around this hotel room, and somebody says, "Hey, let's watch one of Peter's videos. We never get together and get to see them." And so he started playing them, and they're like, "You should be a music video director. This is exactly what they want things to look like." So you remember that era? It started with like Steve Winwood, Higher Love, where everything it looks like it's being shot as a home movie.
Yes.
Getting cut together and stuff like
Yeah.
that. He basically started doing that. And then that became the thing that everybody wanted to do. Music video would go through these stretches of time where there would be a really good idea, and then everybody would copy that idea. And then, things like that would happen. But Peter Kagan, he went on to do a bunch of things, but like for Duran Duran, he did the Notorious video. And he said that was different from Steve Winwood, because Steve Winwood, he was not a visual guy. I mean, he was Spencer Davis Group and Traffic, and he had a few hits, but he was not like in your face on camera kind of guy. So shooting these little Super 8 things from the sides where he couldn't really see you doing it was perfect for him. When you go and shoot Duran Duran, Simon Le Bon, that lead singer, he's eating the camera all the time because he's a lead singer. He's made for MTV. So then when you're shooting that, you get a different sort of effect. But everybody wants to, jump onto the new thing, the new thing and like Nigel Dick, a director that did Tears for Fears, and he did so many videos that he's kind of a utilitarian guy. Like one of these guys he's a filmmaker that's made like 100 movies, and then he's because he works so much, he has like 7 excellent movies of 100 he's made.
Right.
Well, Nigel Dick was just like that. He, over the course of his career, he did a lot of them, but his big ones were those for Tears for Fears. He did Welcome to the Jungle and Sweet Child of Mine for Guns N' Roses, and then later he did Hit Me Baby One More Time for Britney Spears.
Wow.
So he had like these moments that were huge. He told me for every, Welcome to the Jungle for Guns N' Roses, you have 10 Great White videos that you had to shoot. And, that's the price you have to pay.
Sure.
Well, one of the cool things you were talking about, some of the movements, like through the videos, through the history is, and the one that I remember first, and I know there was some before this, but the one that's standing out right now is when they started showing like when they were in concert and they were doing live footage from the concert for the video shoot. And for some reason, the Van Halen video stands out with David Lee Roth as one of the first. But I mean, those were some of my favorite. But one of the coolest ones I ever seen, and I want to know where they got the idea for putting the flower pots on their head, was Devo with Whip It.
Oh my God.
I mean, you know,
the storyline. Well, I don't know if you call it a storyline, but it was awful weird.
I just want to know where the flower pot idea came from.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually, as I understand it, it's called an energy dome.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I know.
Okay.
We need an energy dome. Teachers need an energy dome. I need to get one of those things.
Yeah.
Well, those guys, you know, they come across as kind of, you know, weird and edgy and new space age and whatever. But Devo, the word is short for devolution, and so they actually had this whole diatribe and belief about the de-evolution of society and how, you know, everything's going downhill. And if you talk to them today, they're like, we were right, everything's going downhill.
They nailed it. Yeah.
But that one video for Whip It,
right?
Yeah.
There's so many things going on in there that you cannot show now.
Right.
That's right.
That's
exactly
really
right.
strange. But what the director told me, that his name's Jerry Cassell. He's actually a member of Devo. He said that when they put that together, it was during the era of when Reagan was running for president again, and they had the Morning in America and On the Ranch and all that kind of thing. They're like, well, we're going to make a video on the ranch then. And so that's why that thing is
okay. That's the Western. That's the Western theme. Yeah.
So so strange. A lot of things going on there you can't do now. And I said, did you get any pushback from people at that time? And they're like, no, we didn't have to do anything to that. Some of the other ones we made, we had to alter. They had one where a hot dog goes into a donut, and they said, no, you can't do that. That's a little on the nose, you know?
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
But I mean, but some of the more, and I don't want to call them simple, but the ones like we were talking about, the concerts. I mean, you look back now, and those were just like mega videos, and even to this day, like what is it? I want to say it's like late night on MTV, and I forget what they call it. Maybe Metal Shop or Metal Headbangers Ball or something.
Yeah,
is what they used to call it. But I still like to watch those old '80s videos because they just rock. I mean, they do.
It's what's kind of cool about it is that it's like you're watching a certain period in time, but also there was, I don't know if you guys kind of caught this too, but there for a while it seemed like an artist would have like a trio of big videos. You know, like you said, Van Halen, it was Jump, Panama, and Hot for Teacher, like one after another.
Right.
And you were just waiting for the next one to come. With ZZ Top, it was Sharp Dressed Man, Give Me All Your Lovin', and Legs. You know? So when you were talking about Van Halen earlier, I think one of the people talk about the pop metal era, which I really liked. You have to blame Van Halen for a lot of that, because nobody was smiling in heavy metal videos before Van Halen.
Right.
So they show up and it's Jump, and then it's Pan. I mean, they're having
fun.
Time.
Yeah.
Right.
And that kind of set the
interesting.
I guess you would say the pattern.
That's right. Yeah.
Bon Jovi and, you know, everybody else, White Line.
Kind of
it's kind of funny because DC and I joke, but it's really true. Back during that time frame, and when rap was starting to really gain some popularity here in Nashville, it would be like, no matter who was in concert, it would be like Van Halen special guest star Rat, Johnny Cash special guest star Rat, Loretta Lynn special guest star Rat. They were opening for everybody.
They wanted to be, they were on stage whenever they could be on stage. Yeah.
And it was so cool because they were gaining the popularity from MTV. And all these people were going to see them as well as the stars they were. I mean, it was just, wow.
That's funny. I have a friend of mine that I was talking to just last week, and I went to LSU, so I was in Baton Rouge in the late 80s, and these guys went to see Public Enemy, but in a reverse of this, No Doubt was opening up for them.
Oh,
which
wow.
is such an
Wow.
odd
That
combination.
is,
Right.
that
Yeah.
it is.
But I talked to them not that long ago. They're like, yeah, they were nobody at that time, and for years after that, I mean, just a few years, they all of a sudden were like a big deal. And these
Right.
two guys are talking to each other like, is that band with that girl that we saw for Public Enemy? So those kind of combinations are interesting. I always like festivals because there's usually so many
variety
things like that going on.
Yeah.
What's the last oh wait, you who Nashville?
We're right down the road from Bonnaroo.
Well, also my friend Kevin Griffin in Better Than Ezra does the Pilgrimage Festival.
Oh yeah.
Over there in Franklin.
Yes.
So that one gets a lot of interesting artists, a fair amount of rock and a fair amount of country too. But but as I recall, Justin Timberlake came out and played a couple of times too. So
I think I remember
he owns some property in that area, I think.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Where does he not own property?
Right. That's a good point. That's a good point.
But
hey,
speaking of Nashville, my brother used to live in Murfreesboro.
That's where I'm sitting right now.
Yep,
Come on.
I'm actually in Smyrna, right down the road from him.
Yeah.
So,
How about that? Yeah, he lived there for a while, and in Nashville he worked for Warner Brothers. He worked for Warner Brothers Nashville for a while.
Yeah,
he's actually in Blake Shelton's Old Red video.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's is that the one where he's in prison and
right? Yes.
the dog.
Yes.
That's yeah. My brother plays the guy who busts out of prison. The guy that was supposed to do it, I think, didn't show up, and they're like,
wow,
you got to do it. So,
oh wow, isn't that a cool story?
That's awesome.
Yeah, my brother lives in New Orleans now. He works in the film industry down there as well.
Okay.
So it's always fun to kind of talk to him about film and about music videos and things that go on. One of the things I when I was talking to all these music video directors that was great was that there was a little space of time where the record company knew that you had to get on MTV to sell records, because it was doing much better than the radio was at selling records, but they still didn't know what worked and what didn't. They just had to get on. So these directors had sort of a free hand when it came to their ideas and the things that they wanted to try to do, because the order from the record company was just make it look cool. It's got to look cool enough to get on MTV. Okay, that's all we're asking.
Yeah.
So these guys would come up with these crazy, sort of ideas, and sometimes they would work, sometimes they wouldn't. But we were talking about ZZ Top before.
Yeah.
On paper, that sounds like a terrible idea for television. There's three guys, two of them got big beards. They play blues music from Texas, and nobody looks like that on MTV.
Right.
So when they found
opposite flip,
they found this guy Tim Newman who actually he shot the video for I Love LA for Randy Newman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Tim is Randy's cousin, and Tim had been shooting beer commercials and car commercials and stuff like that, with girls and all this sort of stuff. So the guys, the ZZ Top management found him and said, we'd like to do something. We want to get on MTV, and we really want you to use this car that we've got. And so the car was on the cover of the album.
Right.
So this guy came up with an idea that had a car and girls, and and the guys ended up being the Greek chorus. They're not actually, all they're doing is playing and and helping out, but there's still a young hero. And then by the time you get to legs, they shifted over, now it's a girl who's trying to get the guy. But I mean, it's just such a crapshoot as to what's going to work and what's not going to work at that time. It's some of the videos that we've come to know and love are like, who would have thought that it was actually going to work? I mean, somebody like Billy Joel, it's not exactly perfect for MTV, but he did several different things and ended up, kind of striking gold at a certain point. I mean, An Innocent Man, that album's got like 5 hits, and most of them were on MTV. It was like Tell Her About It, Uptown Girl, Longest Time, Leave a Tender Moment Alone. You just go on.
Yeah.
But there would be somebody like that, and then somebody who it wasn't quite going to work for. Somebody like the Pointer Sisters. They had a certain amount of success. And they got some videos on, but their big one was for Neutron Dance.
Right.
Beverly Hills Cop. So
sure,
there were some artists that really flourished in that. Kenny Loggins is sort of the king of all the movie soundtrack videos and stuff like that at that time. So, that worked out for him as well. And when I spoke to Terry Nunn from Berlin, they had some success with the Metro and No More Words, but then they got a chance to be on the Top Gun soundtrack, and they did Take My Breath Away. And so the tie-in for that was they went and shot a music video in an airplane graveyard. So when you see it, sometimes they cut from Top Gun to them. Sometimes it's just them. Sometimes it's just Top Gun. So you never knew what was going to happen. But the people who had worked on it told me that there were snakes in the.
Wow.
They were trying to keep the band from knowing that they were snakes.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I would have been gone.
I know. Later, when I told
I'm done
Terry
with this
Nunn,
shoot.
Yeah, later when I talked to Terry Nunn about it, she was like, "Oh, I'm so glad they didn't tell me there were snakes on there. I never would have gone."
No.
Sure.
No way.
Well, Stephen, you've got me right to the next thing that I wanted to kind of talk to both of you guys about. As I prepped for this show, what I did was I thought, okay, let's do this. Let's look and have like a top 10 best videos of the 80s and the top 10 worst ones. So I started looking at several different articles where people had done that. And what I did was I wrote down the ones that were pretty consecutive in all those. And I'm wanting y'all's opinion on, no, I don't think that belongs there or whatever. So let's do, since you already mentioned it, the number one on the worst that I've seen several times was Legs.
No, see, I can't do that at all.
I do too.
That's nonsense. Why would somebody think that that's a bad video?
I don't know. I don't know if they thought it was kind of a goofy story. I don't know.
Yeah, the
second one listed, I kind of get it. Separate Ways, where they're pretending to play the instruments.
Oh yeah, that is pretty terrible.
Yeah. Now that one I could put it number one on the worst. So
okay, there you go.
The director, that was Tom Buchholz, and they actually shot that in New Orleans on the docks. And I said, Tom, was it your idea to put that keyboard on the wall and have
on the side of the warehouse? Yeah.
Yeah. And I was interviewing Tom on the phone, and I said, was that your idea? And he had this big sigh.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that was my idea. But one of the stories he told me about shooting that was that they were shooting on the docks out there, and a ship was coming in, and it was apparently the Russian Navy or something. And the word got out that the Russian Navy actually thought that Journey was there to welcome them. They were playing this song on the docks, and so right. But yeah, that was a pretty terrible one. They did 3 videos. It's Separate Ways only for that during that shoot. Separate Ways ended up being the only one that was a hit. And I think, After the Fall, that might have been a hit too, but they shot one for that, and they shot one for Chain Reaction, and they're all just terrible.
Yeah.
I think they redeemed themselves by doing the old standby, the tour bus blues anthem
faithfully.
Yes. Which that pattern actually was interesting, because there were so many other bands who they would have their power ballad or whatever. And after Motley Crue did Home Sweet Home, everybody started doing them exactly the same, which is they're on stage and they're slow motion, and then on the tour bus, and they miss their girlfriend and all that kind of nonsense. So we kept seeing that over and over and over again after a while. Besides Faithfully, the other one that did that very early on was Dokken for Alone Again. I think it was 83 or 84, so it was pretty early in the whole pattern of that. The guy who directed that was a guy named Wayne Isham, who famously was the director of Madonna's Lucky Star, only because somebody else bagged out and he was there, and they said, "Yeah, you just shoot it," you know.
Wow.
And that whole scene at the very beginning of Lucky Star with Madonna, where she takes her glasses and goes down like this, that was his idea, and it was the very last shot, and she was just wanting to leave, and she's just, can we finish this? Can we finish this? And he's waiting for them to bring this lens over. And apparently he says to her, I can't just shit a lens. Okay. And she did not laugh.
Yeah. I would say she probably did.
They ran over to him with the lens. He put it on and he goes, "All right, go." And she goes, "Cut." And she apparently went like this, turned around and just left. That was just the end of the whole thing.
Oh, wow.
Now, I don't know if you, speaking of things that happened, I don't know if you guys know the story about Bruce Springsteen and the Dancing in the Dark video. The one that you see where he's on stage and the big concert and the girl gets up, that was not the first one that was shot. The first one that was shot, he walked off the set of. And they had to redo it later. The director of it was a guy named Jeff Stein, and the director of photography was this guy named Daniel Pearl, who's done probably 100 of the most famous music videos that you know. This guy was everywhere doing everything. But apparently they were going to shoot it. They had, the idea was Dancing in the Dark. So they were going to have him in a tank top, and he's got these black suspenders on and just a shaft of light coming down. And so it's just him and Clarence Clements. And so when they're setting it up, Springsteen is like, "Can you put some a filter or something on the lens? Might be a good idea." And apparently Daniel Pearl goes, "I'm not going to shoot you like Stevie Nicks. Okay. You're supposed to have some cut lines. You're supposed to look like a man, that's why we're shooting it this way." And Springsteen didn't really say anything. He was, all right. And so the director was actually out of the room at this time. So he comes back, they shoot one take, and then they shoot another take. And then Springsteen goes, "I'll be right back." And he leaves and he doesn't come back.
Oh, wow.
And so the word starts getting around. People are talking and stuff. And so Jeff Stein, the director, goes over to Dan and goes, "What the hell did you say? He left." Like, I don't. So that was scrapped. And Springsteen's manager at the time, John Landau, decided to call his old college roommate, Brian De Palma, to come and direct the music video. So that's how that ended up happening.
Crazy.
Wow.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Survivor, Eye of the Tiger made the list.
Oh, come on. That's not that bad. They're just walking down the street. It's another one of those, we're walking down the street guy.
Right.
Did you guys know that I don't know if you've watched that documentary about Stallone, but I also heard in an interview, he found Survivor and told them, had them watch the movie, and they wrote Eye of the Tiger for the movie.
For the movie.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. It's so smart. And I think somebody said that Stallone wrote the third verse of it and just kind of mixed up the words and made it like make sense again. But he was so sure. That's one of the things. Stallone doesn't get anywhere near as much credit as he should get for everything that he's right about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, DH, yours made it. Men Without Hats.
That was directed by a guy named Tim Pope, who did a lot of the Cures videos. And he said,
what
when
can
you
I say?
You listen to that song, and it goes,
I like it.
He came up with the idea for it to be a circus and like a medieval fair or whatever.
That makes sense.
He found a little person and a weird looking girl, and the guy Ivan, who's the the singer and stuff. It's so strange, but it was mad.
It is. But I guarantee you, every one of us, when he said that video, thought of that.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's exactly
I actually went to a medieval fair one time, 12 or 13 years ago. And I was writing a blog about music videos. And so a couple of the people were there, like, "Can you do the safety dance? I want to take a picture of you." They're like, "Okay," because they did, and it was great because they were like, people say safety dance all the time at the medieval fair.
This one I can believe. Wake me up before you go.
Oh,
Please
come
don't
on.
wake me up. Please don't wake me up for that one.
What's so bad about that video? That was huge. That was a massive hit.
I just
They knew
that just
exactly
wasn't-
what they were doing, you know?
out of all the videos that George Michael did, I just no. No. Don't wake me up.
Oh,
Let me
come on.
sleep.
Right.
Oh,
Let me
come on.
sleep through that. Yeah.
Brilliant. He was a brilliant songwriter.
Now let me say
Oh,
this.
yeah.
He was a brilliant individual and he sold a heck of a lot more albums than I ever
Oh,
will.
darn right. Yeah.
So he knows what he's doing. My opinion doesn't matter on that one.
Well, I got to do a quick plug here because
Mm-hmm.
I produce a music video time machine dance party once a month here in Brooklyn,
Mm-hmm.
and we got the Christmas one coming up.
Wow.
This one's called Santa Baby One More Time because we're going to play a lot of 90s stuff.
There you go.
But I almost named it "Wake Me Up Before You Ho Ho."
That would have worked too.
I think so.
It
think
would've worked.
I think that would have worked.
Definitely would have worked. Stephen, the one that I wanted to bring up to you, where you can tell this story. I think this is the one you were talking about in that interview. That made this list was "Torture" by the Jacksons.
Yeah, that's a terrible video. If you
Tell DH what happens at the end of it.
okay, well, just to kind of tell the whole story.
Yeah.
It's Jeff Stein, the same guy who did the Dance in the Dark, the original one. He had done Billy Idol's Rebel Yell. He had a series of good ones. So they got him. He did Tom Petty's Don't Come Around Here No More.
Oh, wow.
Great one too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they hired him to do this thing. This was an album that came right after Thriller, called Victory. And so all the Jacksons were a part of it. So they came up with this concept that if you kind of see it on paper, it looks like they're trying to make Thriller in outer space or something.
Right.
Because there's skeletons in it, and there's a spider, and there's some spatial landscapes and stuff like that. But it was a mess, and it apparently around LA, everybody knew that they were shooting this thing, and that it was costing millions of dollars, and it was never ending. It was like 36-hour shoot days.
Oh my gosh!
Apparently the director saw two guys doing cocaine on the set, but there was a giant light that was shining against them, so they looked like two giant dinosaur shadows on the wall of the warehouse. Looked like they were doing cocaine, and he runs over there and knocks it out of their hands before anybody could see it. And I tried to confirm that with the director of photography, this guy Tony Mitchell, and I said, "Did this really happen?" He goes, "Yeah, I was one of the guys doing the cocaine."
Wow.
Oh, wow.
But the story that you're referring to is the fact that not only did Jermaine not show up, Michael didn't show up either. And so at a certain point in the video, toward the end, there's a shot of all the Jacksons there, but Michael is not Michael. It's the Madame Tussauds wax figure that they flew in from the UK to stand there.
Wow.
While his brothers are around him. It's just
how crazy is that?
Yeah. And if you watch it and just watch toward the end, they don't even have him just kind of standing there. They had to put one of his arms up in the air, and it's a mannequin. It's like, so yeah, that is one of the worst things anybody ever tried to put out. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
The song's not very good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would put that up there with the worst.
There you go.
But the funniest part of that whole story is at some point they had to sit around a table and go, "Hey, we can fly this mannequin in and do this."
Somebody had an idea. Yeah.
That sounds like a DC scheme.
That would have been a scheme I would have pulled.
There was more than one person on cocaine, I think.
You're right.
There you
when
go.
it comes to that kind of idea.
There you go.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a few of these off the best list.
Okay.
That made, number one that I seen a lot was "Take on Me."
Well, yeah, it's because it's its own
It's unique.
sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it stood the test of time. It's been like cycles. It will come back as like a Volkswagen ad, or somebody will reference it in a movie or something like that. And it's also the only song over here in the United States that that Aha is really known for. They had a follow-up hit called "The Sun Always Shines on TV." It was a kind of a minor hit, but over in Europe, they have a much larger following because they have much larger hits over there. And the animation was something that nobody had really tried at the time.
Yeah.
It was also very, very risky to do this with that band because if you've ever seen those guys, they're incredibly good looking. I mean, as good looking as guys in Duran Duran or any other band that had heartthrobs in it. So when they, this guy, Steve Barron, actually came up with the idea, they were a little hesitant about it, but they ended up putting him together with an interesting animator. They had a good storyline for it. And yeah, it went to #1. It's, it's always makes the top 10 greatest videos. And just to real quick to talk about Steve Barron, he directed Billie Jean for Michael Jackson, and then he pitched the next video, which was going to be which was Beat It, but they were already had plans to do it with somebody else. But apparently Steve Barron was on an airplane with Michael, and he pitched Beat It to take place on a slave ship.
Oh gosh!
Which Michael was so offended by that he walked to the other side of the plane and sat over there for the rest of the flight.
Right.
And they never worked together again.
Wow. Interesting you say that. Thriller and Beat It both are on this top 10.
Best? Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, you can say what you want about Michael Jackson, but I mean, he was as ahead as anybody could be.
Yeah.
I mean, the jump from Billie Jean to Beat It to Thriller is exponential. It's astronomical how far ahead he goes. And if you read Music Video Time Machine magazine online, there's an interview with John Landis, who directed Thriller, and he sort of tells a few of the stories that he hasn't told before. But he also talks about coming back later and directing Black or White for Michael, which is, that's 2 albums later when he was really kind of going off the beam. Apparently he was called after several other music video directors who were working on the Black or White video had quit because Michael was not cooperating. Sometimes he wouldn't come to the set at all, like he did on tour. He just didn't show up. But finally, so John Landis was like, okay, well, I want to get paid by the week instead of a flat fee. And they're like, okay, that's fine. He knew what he was doing because it ended up taking, I think, 6-9 weeks, maybe 10 weeks to shoot the whole thing. But he got another hit out of it. So there you go.
There you go. Addicted to Love.
Addicted to Love, I think it's just because it's at the time it was strange. Right. And everybody copied it. So it became this thing that people were making a parody of, when in fact, if you watch it, it's actually kind of a strange parody of what was going on in the modeling industry at that time, because all the girls are pouting and sad. Right. So, the lighting is bad, that, the whole thing is almost kind of depressing, but I think it's because the beat of the music is a little bit lower in the tempo than it usually would be.
Very zombie-like.
Yeah. The guys that played
with their expression. Yeah.
The guys that played on Addicted to Love were the same guys that played when Robert Palmer was a member of the Power Station with the guys from Duran Duran and Tony Thompson from Chic. So if Addicted to Love kind of sounds like Bang a Gong or the guitar, from that album, it's because it's the same guys made their way over to that. And as you know, he ended up doing that same setup for 2 more videos for I Didn't Mean to Turn You On and for Simply Irresistible.
There you go. When Doves Cry made the list.
For as best? Yeah. Well, I don't know if Prince climbing out of a bathtub is everybody's bag.
Sure. Yeah,
he's an extremely talented person. It's a great song. Yeah. And it's got some interesting parts of it, but a lot of that video is Purple Rain. A lot of
Right.
it is
Yeah.
shots
Yeah,
from Purple Rain.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's good.
That must
But
be.
And I
yeah,
think that's probably why it
That's
made the
probably
list.
why. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
This one surprised me. How about Every Breath You Take?
I got a good story about that one. That was directed by these two guys, Godley and Cream, who used to be in a band called 10cc. Their big song was "The Things We Do for Love." You know,
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
I know that song.
Gotcha.
so
Gotcha.
they ended up kind of branching out and starting to direct videos, and so they got this particular gig, and they got Daniel Pearl, actually the guy who had worked on the Springsteen thing. And they decided they wanted to shoot in black and white, and they wanted it to be sort of like this a jazz film, and had these certain way the shafts of light were, and stuff like that. And Daniel Pearl had actually worked on a video that used that concept for Tom Petty called "A Woman in Love." So if you take a look at "A Woman in Love" and then you watch "Every Breath You Take," you can see exactly what they were doing. I mean, some of the window shots are almost exactly the same. But what's great about police videos is that you always have to deal with Stuart Copeland having the first note, because every one of those is just, and that's how Every Breath You Take starts with that big crack at the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing that was apparently reported was that, well, actually, Kevin Golly told me this, that Sting said to him on the set, said, "Don't forget to point the camera at the money." There you go. And also, when they did "Wrapped Around Your Finger," the record company said, "We want a concept of this." And so we want to fill the room with candles, and like, well, we really need to see that on paper. So apparently they mailed them a picture of a candle, and then they said, "This is what we have in mind."
Oh, wow.
Now, the other thing about Golly and Cream was that they smoked weed all the time. So many of their ideas, they said, should have been credited to Godley and Cream and Hash.
They should have gave Hash some credit on.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
They're the guys that came up with, you remember Herbie Hancock's Rocket?
Yes.
That video was with all the robot guys and stuff like that.
Yes.
They got the call to do that, and they were trying to figure out what they're going to do, because, I mean, Herbie Hancock was a jazz artist.
Right.
And this was kind of a funky thing, and it had some record scratching and stuff. So it was very different than anything.
Different from him, yeah.
And also, MTV wasn't playing a lot of African-American artists at the time either. So they were trying to figure out, how can we kind of, work with this? And then apparently sometime that week, they were watching TV, stoned, watching TV, and there was a news report about this art exhibit that had those robots and stuff like that. And they're like, "Oh, well, let's just do that. Let's go talk to them." And so that's where the idea came up. They just saw it and they went talk to them and said, "Hey, let's put all that together." And it worked. And part of the getting Herbie Hancock on screen was that he was on a TV screen, and then they would shoot the screen, and then they would shoot the robots. And so he became part of the exhibit. It was sort of like, it wasn't quite as overtly an R&B song or a funk song or something like that. The sort of thing that African American artists were having a lot of trouble getting on MTV. Rick James famously said, "Those guys are terrible." So they tried to kind of go around it. And somebody else who had a problem with that too was Billy Joel. He was very adamant about having a lot of African American people in all of his music videos. So if you watch "Tell Her About It," or "Uptown Girl," or any of those, there's a lot of African American people in them. That was on purpose.
Gotcha. Before we wrap this thing up,
we're going to wrap this thing up.
I've got to ask this question to you. Can you name a group or artist where music video helped their career? Does something pop in your mind?
Oh, Duran Duran, definitely.
Okay.
I mean, they had good songs, but they were made for
video.
for MTV.
How about
Um,
any artist that it hurt, if any?
Billy Squire.
Hmm.
He made one video for Rock Me Tonight that was just so ridiculous, and he was dancing around and he's a terrible dancer. I
Okay.
remember seeing a review of that video where the critic said that he was dancing around like a French chef whose souffle had fallen.
Yeah,
And
pretty bad. Yeah,
that's pretty bad. Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty bad to be
But
considered to that.
now,
I don't
DC,
think it helped him.
Yeah.
I don't think it helped him at all.
You ready,
DC,
DH?
you got to ask the question of the night. Now,
No, you do it.
Stephen, I am not. DC always says I try
All right.
to influence this
All right.
question. Okay, so what
Steven,
it is?
here's what we got. We ask all our guests.
No.
Well, let me back up. We do our post-conference meetings at the local Waffle House.
on
Okay.
Friday morning. That's the big budget. The waffle.
That's the big budget for this show.
Big fan of the Waffle House. Got
Darn
him.
right. So here's what happens when we do this polled question here to our guest. The loser has to pick up the check. So here we go.
And
Well, I hope
DC always says that
Yeah, he
I
likes to
try
be.
he
He
says
likes
I
to try to.
influence this
Yeah,
stuff,
tries to influence.
but I don't try to influence. I just singularly put it out there and let the guest decide. I mean,
Right.
as far as me, I'm like a solo cup. I'm just empty and not adding anything. I'm just a
Right.
solo cup.
I hear you.
That's all.
man.
I'm not adding anything.
Sure.
All right, DC, go ahead.
Sure. Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, we're going to ask him the old ones first
Okay, well,
because
on
we
the old
changed
ones,
these like every
How many questions are there?
there was-
This is our third one.
this
we've
is our
done.
third.
Yeah,
And
this is
believe
the
it or
third one
not,
we've
this
done.
has become one of the fan favorites
Oh,
of the
they
show
love it.
for some reason.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So-
They look
so-
forward to this. Okay, here it is. The first one, DH, was Motley Crue versus Van Halen. Your choice.
I'd have to say Van Halen. I
Okay.
usually
I
hear
got
Motley
wore out
Crue-
on that one.
I usually hear Motley Crue versus Guns N' Roses, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went a little different.
Yeah,
and
we just threw some stuff up in the air and see if it would stick. So there you go.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
Van Halen, definitely.
so that's one
This
for
one
me.
was a pretty good one. Most guests thought.
This was the
Now,
second
you
one.
put me on the spot on this one. Every one of them said that pretty much.
Okay.
All right, here it is: Michael Jackson versus Prince.
Prince. Always Prince.
Okay, I
We'll-
won that one.
we
So there
will
you go.
never-
The pattern is staying.
I don't think we'll ever see a talent like Prince in
right.
our time again. Never.
agree.
Man played
I
all
agree.
of his own
I agree.
instruments,
Now,
put out an album every single year. I
Yep.
mean, he was unstoppable.
now for this one, like I said, now this is the one
Here's
that counts for
we're
breakfast.
currently on.
And I'm like a solo cup. I'm empty. I am not
okay.
influencing anything. I'm just
Yeah.
like a solo cup.
All right, here it is. We went with Journey. We did something different. We went with a band versus a solo artist.
Okay.
So we went Journey versus Bryan Adams.
Ooh. I'm gonna have to go with Journey.
Oh,
DH, that food will go down awful good for me.
it
on
will because
Friday.
I'm like
Now,
I said last
nothing
week. I'm
against-
buying your first refill.
Nothing. Yeah. I think he's got $10 he could spare.
Yeah,
Bryan Adams, he's great. But he's Canadian, so got to go with the hometown. You know what I mean?
cross him. Yeah, cross him off there.
We just thought it would be interesting because, to be honest with
Yeah.
you, the Michael Jackson Prince one, I didn't think it would be as tough as some of our guests have
Man,
made
they
it.
thought it was. Yeah.
They thought it really was.
turned
So
out
we
to
thought,
be a
well,
hard
we'll
one
do it.
for
Because they were actual rivals on the
Sure.
charts
Right.
and other
Yeah.
ways too.
Yeah.
The other thing about Journey, though, is that I like all the offshoots of Journey as well,
Yeah,
like
Right.
Bad
Yeah.
English.
Yeah.
Or with some of your listeners may not remember Bad English. It was basically Journey with John Waite
John Wade.
Mhm.
Yeah,
singing lead.
absolutely.
Then there's Steve Perry's solo, Oh Sherry
Oh,
and
Sherry,
Strung
right.
Out, and some of the other songs like that. Neil Schon, obviously from
Yeah.
Santana, and
Yeah.
and a
That's
band
right.
HSAS I don't know if you remember this. It was Sammy Hagar, Neil Schoen, Kenny Aronson, and Michael Shreve, I think. It was
Wow.
just like a kind of a super group that I
Yeah.
think they only did one album,
Okay.
something like that. And so I mean, all those other entities are all, they all owe Journey. And I also think the story of Ariel Pineda becoming the new singer and stuff, just like that's a Hollywood movie in itself.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
Sure it is. Sure
And
it is.
nothing against Bryan Adams, he's okay. Although if I never hear everything I do for you again, I'll be fine.
Yeah, me too. I'm with you. I'm in that camp.
Here's the thing: all of these artists, there's not a bad choice because they all made DND Dynamite '80s shows. So they made it when they make our show.
Right.
So,
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. You've arrived.
Exactly.
Yeah, we don't know where, but you've arrived somewhere.
Yeah. There you go. And I believe only 3 members of those bands and or solo artists are dead. So you're doing pretty well.
Yeah, you're doing
There you
okay.
Well, that's a good thing. Yeah, that's a good thing.
I think so.
Yeah. Hey, Stephen, give everybody, get some info out to us here.
All right. Well,
about the magazine and how to follow you and all that great stuff.
If you want to read the magazine or know whatever events and stuff are coming up, you can go to musicvideotimemachine.com. That's pretty straightforward there. Now, if you're on the Instagram, you can go to Music Video Time Machine with the little @ in front of it. If you're on Twitter, you go to MV Time Machine. And if you're on MySpace, I don't know what to tell you at all. You might want to rethink.
You may miss out.
Yes.
Right. You might want to rethink your social media.
Like I was saying earlier, I just closed down my Friendster page just a few weeks ago. But that's kind of what we're doing. I post on a blog pretty regularly, and we have a once a month dance party here in Brooklyn. Music Video Time Machine. We got a Christmas theme this go round, so we play music videos to dance to from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and the aughts, if that's what they're calling it, I guess. But
that's just fantastic.
Hit me up on Instagram. Love to talk to people about music video every chance I get to give my wife a break.
There you go. Hey, I hope that you'll catch back up with us again when we talk some more of this stuff.
Oh yeah, man, I'd love to come back and talk to you guys again. It seems like
fantastic.
We're kindred spirits in the videos.
Yeah, if you hold tight right there, we'll close it out and let you get on with your evening.
Oh,
all right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for another episode of D&D Dynamite 80s. We hope you had as much fun as we did. Remember, you can find us on Anchor, Spotify, Breaker Radio, Radio Republic, YouTube, in the Twitter sphere, Instagram. I guess that's X now. The Exosphere, I guess, is what it would be.
Whatever the heck it is.
Instagram.
Wants to call it
whatever. It's something out there, wherever it is.
Yeah.
On the TikToker, on Facebook, of course, and our website and Google Podcast. All of it D&D Dynamite 80. So check us out. Give us a share. Give us a like.
Yeah.
Give us a shout out. Anything negative you want to say about the show, send it to DC.
Send all the comments
to our
to
complaint
DH.
department. Yep.
Yeah.
DC's our complaint department.
Complaint department. That's
so
about
Stephen,
what
thank you for joining us. And folks, as I always end it before I throw it over to DC there, who I guess I'm buying a free refill for on coffee on Friday. Always be kind to each other, because remember, it doesn't cost anything extra to be kind.
Yeah,
DC?
There you go, man. Hey, before I close it out, let's get our sponsors in there real quick.
Let's do it.
D&D Dynamite 80s would like to thank their sponsors: Hudson's Flags and More, PJG Marketing, and the Nesting Project of Smyrna, Tennessee. You can find all these great folks online. You most certainly can.
Yeah.
Can. Hey, next week we've got David Lowry. He's a local musician here in Nashville area, and he also operates a management agency. He's the owner of a management agency. So we'll catch up with him, and he's looking forward to being on the program. And we met him when we were interviewing other people.
Yes,
and he was very interested in what we had going on. So we'll catch up with David. He's a strong supporter of what we do, and
gets
a lot of likes on stuff that we've got going. So we appreciate David. So hey, once again, Stephen, we appreciate it so much.
Thank you. Drop a quarter in the jukebox at the Waffle House for me.
There you go.
Those Waffle
Will
House
do.
songs.
Yes. I will definitely be thinking strongly of you on Friday morning.
DC, if I have to drop the quarter in, that's your refill. I'm not paying for it at that point.
Right. Well, guys, we appreciate it. Hey, we'll be back, like I said, next Wednesday like normal, our Wednesday night show. As we get closer to Christmas, we'll have to switch a few days here and there. But, hey, we'll make it work and let you know ahead of time and all that great stuff. And as DC always closes it out with you, keep playing those 80s.
See you next week, folks.
See you guys.